Okay, let's talk about the US economy, because right now it is sending some seriously mixed signals. On paper, everything looks pretty good, but for millions of people, it just doesn't feel that way in their day-to-day lives. And this is where we hit a huge puzzle. There's this massive disconnect between the official data and how people are actually feeling about their money. The numbers tell one story, but our bank accounts, our grocery bills, they're telling a completely different one. So who's right here? To really get what's going on, we have to look at these two completely different stories being told at the exact same time. One is a story of a strong, resilient economy. The other is a story of anxiety and, frankly, financial strain. And here it is, laid out plain as day. On one side, you've got the good news, the hard data. Consumer spending is strong, GDP is up, incomes are growing. Looks great, right? But then you look at the other side, the feeling. Consumer sentiment is actually at a 4-month low. People are feeling what one expert called a bit of a burn from high prices and worries about the job market. So, what's driving this bad feeling? Well, a huge part of it is inflation that just won't quit. We're still hovering around 3%, which is a full point higher than the Federal Reserve's 2% target. And that little bit extra, it really starts to add up over time. And this quote, I think, just hits the nail on the head. It's not about abstract percentages, it's about that moment of sticker shock at the grocery store. Like this Bloomberg host said, even the price of steaks makes you do a double take. That's the stuff that shapes how we perceive the economy way more than some GDP report.
Okay, so this isn't just some big abstract national trend. Let's drill down and see how this actually plays out for a real company and its customers.
So consider a company like 1-800-Flowers.com. Their stock is down, and down significantly. You have to ask why. Well, it's because when people feel squeezed financially, things like flowers, those nice-to-haves, are often the first things to get cut from the budget. And the company's CEO, Adolfo Gomez, he's seeing two completely different customers. His most loyal, probably higher-end clients, they're still spending. The orders are coming in. But then you've got the other folks, maybe buying lower-priced items, and they're becoming, as he says, a little bit more picky. They're clearly feeling the pinch. So what you're seeing here is the entire national economic puzzle, but in miniature. It's a fractured reality, a tale of two consumers all playing out inside of one single company. It's fascinating. Now, all this confusion and these conflicting data points, they create a massive headache for the most powerful financial group in the country, the Federal Reserve. I mean, their job is to steer the economy, but right now, it's like they're trying to navigate a giant ship through a really thick fog. Just listen to the language here from Richmond Fed President Thomas Barkin. He's using words like adaptive, and he's avoiding being prescriptive. What's he really saying? In plain English, he's signaling extreme caution. The Fed is basically admitting that the path forward is so murky, they just can't lock into one single plan. And this leads us to a phrase you're probably hearing all over the place: data dependent. This is the Fed's official line right now, and honestly, it's just a fancy way of them saying, look, we have to wait and see because the reports coming in are telling two completely opposite stories about growth and inflation. I mean, this puts the Fed on a real tightrope, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got strong spending data that screams, don't you dare cut interest rates. The economy is running hot. But on the other hand, terrible consumer sentiment and that sticky inflation are saying, whoa, hold on, you can't declare victory yet. This conflict makes their next move a huge question mark for the entire economy. So why should you care about this battle between numbers and feelings? This isn't just some academic debate for economists in an ivory tower. This has real-world consequences. Because the interest rates on your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card bills, they are all hanging in the balance right now. The decisions the Fed makes, which are driven by this exact data conflict, are going to determine how expensive it is for you to borrow money, and they'll influence the price of pretty much everything you buy down the road. And that leaves us with the big final question that's really going to define the next chapter for the US economy. In this battle, what's going to win? The cold, hard data or how we all feel? Will those strong numbers eventually lift everyone's spirits? Or will that negative feeling, that sense of being squeezed, ultimately drag those strong numbers down with it? The answer, well, that's something we're all going to be watching very closely.